All right, let's go and do it. All right, we call the meeting to order at 7:02. Stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? We approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Good. And let's see, can we have a motion to approve the minutes from November 4th?
Can you approve the minutes from November 4th?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Good there as well. All right, next up is the school committee chairperson comments. Don't have anything in particular tonight. Cruise past that. Next up, we've got community comments. Is there anyone in the room looking to comment? Anybody online? Raise their hand, Sam.
As of right now, I see no hands raised.
All right, sounds good. Then we will move past community comments. All right, next up, we've got student comments. I think first we've got a group from Miscall Hill Middle School tonight. Come on up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we'll move a little right here to bring it back. So good evening, I'm Kathleen Allen, one of the school counselors at MISCO. I'm currently working with grades 5 and 7.
I'm Ann Blackney. I'm one of the other school counselors at MISCO, and I work with grades 6 and 8 currently.
And this evening, we're very fortunate to have with us
Hi.
your name,
Oh, Mikey.
and next to Mikey, we have.
And
So these students are part of our peer relationship group. Ann and I are currently running 2 groups. We have a 5th grade group with about 8 or 9 students in it. It runs during our WIN block. It's a 6-week group, and we have the group each one day of the cycle, each 6 days for 30 minutes. And we have 3 of our 5th grade students, 4 of our 5th grade students with us and 1 of our 6th grade students.
2 6th grade.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
So just a little bit about the group. I know Kathleen shared a little bit of how it works. So the group is focused on teaching students to make and maintain social connections and relationships. So it's titled a peer relationship group. It does support grades 5 and 6, as Kathleen shared. It's a tier 1 support, so it's available to all students whose parents did sign them up and have permission. We advertised it in the newsletter and also what else did we have? An open house as well too, to have the flyers. Focused on small group discussion, activities. We share some videos, role playing to practice all of those skills.
So on the first week of our group, we talked about why we were together, and we also formed some group rules and expectations. And this is an example on our group rules. I don't know if I'm going to get them to stand.
Hold it, Miss.
Yeah. So we have a student that's going to tell us a little bit about when we formed our group rules. What can you tell us, Mikey? You can read from it. Yeah.
So like we have just 3 rules. And we have a lot of rules, but these are just
3 examples.
number 1 is no put downs. Number 2 is 1 person speaks at a time. Number 3, what we say in here stays in here, except if you know someone is being mean, is being hurt, or someone is hurting you.
So those are 3 examples of our rules, but our students came up with lots of examples. And we worked together as a group to write them down in both of our groups.
In week 2, we talked about skills to start conversations, especially what to do when you don't know how to start a conversation when you're with someone or when you want to introduce yourself. And we have a student Anna, who is going to share one of those strategies that we talked about called the 3 C's.
3 C's are something we talked about when we jump off what I talked about. The first C is common, like we are both wearing blue today. The second C is compliment, like you look great today, or I like your sweater. The third C is comment, saying something about what you see or that there looks like in the sky today. The sky is so blue today.
So that's a little formula when you have no idea what to talk about with someone else. You can think of those 3 C's as something you might want to say. So then the 3rd week, we went on to talk about characteristics of good friendships. And we're going to have 2 students help us out with that one.
So,
Bridget, you can come on over.
what makes a good friend a good friend? Being respectful, flexible, include, comfort them, be fun, trustworthy, honest, fun, and helpful.
So we talked about all these characteristics and we talked about kind of making a soup with them and mixing them all up. And one of our students came up with a very cool name for this.
The friendship smoothie.
I love it. When you blend it all together, it makes a good friendship. And in week 4, we talked about conflict resolution. We haven't gotten there yet with our 5th grade group, but we have with our 6th grade groups talked about conflict resolution. And they're one of the ways that we can help when we're in a conflict. A way to communicate with each other is to use I statements. So we have Layla's going to share a bit about I statements.
So I statements are a way to share your feelings with somebody you are in conflict with. An example would be, I feel hurt when you said my shoes were out of style. Next time, please keep your comments to yourself.
Thank you. So on week 5, we'll review what we've learned throughout the course of the group. We did start week 1 with a friendship self-assessment. So we'll have our students take that again, week 5.
And then in week 6, it's a bit of a celebration. We're going to celebrate what we learned, celebrate friendships, and make some collages. So you guys are getting a preview to what we're going to be doing on those weeks 5 and 6.
So this is actually an example. I thought this was really cool. So Ann and I decided to take a picture. Our students decided to, on the blue or the purple marker, sketch out an I statement and draw it. And then this happened to be in my office. Another student came in and was really intrigued by it, a student who wasn't part of the group, and then turned around and sketched out their own I statement in the red. So I thought it was really neat. I know you probably can't read the words, but it is what Layla shared with us. I feel when you, next time I would like, all sketched out.
And this is just something coming soon. These are another group that Kathleen and I are hoping to run. Since we did offer a group to 5th and 6th grade, we're looking to make this one open to 7th and 8th grade to start off. And that's going to be a stress management group. So these are some of the topics that we're looking to cover: understanding goals, setting SMART goals, overcoming obstacles, staying motivated, and the power of mindset, including growth mindset, power of yes.
And these are a few more upcoming things from the counseling office. We will be hosting along with Chris Massey, our adjustment counselor, and Gail Farkaswan, our nurse, a coffee connection in December on a Friday morning. I believe it's the first Friday in December, where we're going to talk about anxiety. We're hoping it will be a roundtable discussion with our parents, but we'll be bringing resources, and handouts and community resources. We also just wanted to highlight quickly the counseling department works in collaboration with a lot of community members during this holiday season. At Thanksgiving, we provide Thanksgiving meals for families that may be in need in coordination with a local church. At Christmas time, we do a giving tree where we take ideas from families and confidentially put ornaments on a tree, and allows our staff to buy gifts for our students, no names attached, and then we get those gifts to the families. Our student council always also works with us, and homerooms put together meals for families. And then also during the Thanksgiving week, the 8th grade typically does their walk for giving, and that becomes part of our Christmas packages for our families.
And that's what we have.
Yeah.
Give them a round of applause.
Yes, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? What do you think would happen if you didn't learn about how to relate to other people through this session?
Because we talked about the purpose of our group, right? What was the purpose when we started our group? What were the reasons why we were part of this group?
Make a better friendship.
Be able to connect with other people more efficiently and effectively.
Do you want to add something to it?
Very good.
The opportunity to practice anything that you've learned in your group. It went well.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you use the 3 Cs. Do you pick one more than the other, or do you mix it up? When you were, who presented the 3 Cs? Oh, it reminded me of every day. I'm fascinated that people wear the same colors in my office. And so that's the first thing I always say, right? I say,
Yes.
I comment on the colors and then we talk about it. So we actually, I see that a lot. I bet if we pay attention, we see a lot of the 3 Cs when people are talking. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You guys are welcome to stay, but don't feel like you have to. We won't be offended. I know you're gonna walk the line. All right, Hannah, some updates?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's been a while since you've all seen me, whoever said school year was. I felt long notes. Friends. I had like nice job. So drama, if you saw our recent play, we would have the like Paula. I can only assume that it's because she didn't and a booster box, I feel like it's gonna be really good. I'm looking at the sets and most of the play. And I've been up for a producer.
Whoa.
So.
At all.
Yeah, so I think it's from that perspective, I feel like it's really good. Mastery learning record, I finished that and it's been sent out to the colleges that I'm applying to, which is really exciting. And I would like to like emphasize its prominence on my application. I talked about it a little bit last time, but I wanted to emphasize the idea that I think seniors or juniors and seniors need a lot more time for college preparation, I feel like, because there's just so much that went into it, and also with my supplementals and other things for college, it would just be nice to have like a little more time for that. And I think I have in Spanish class, my teacher does give us like every time we have the class last block, like a college prep block, and then we have all like my friends in that class and just everyone I'm comfortable with, we all like talk about it. So it's like really helpful having other people who are going through the same thing, like trying to figure out what we want to do for college is one place as we all go through together. Back to the MLR though, I did show it off to some people at the climate conference in the media center. It was like a whopping 3 people, but it's okay. I'm hoping that next time we present it, it'll be to more because I really love the mastery learning transcript. I really want to emphasize it as much as I can. And the last thing I have was doesn't exactly relate to NIPMOC, but it is something I know a lot of students go through, and that is the SAT. So I recently took the SAT for the 2nd time, and I wanted to like elaborate a little on my experience. So like first I started with a B tutor, not good, but then I found a good tutor, which was Miss Ella Bozick, and she supported me, and I felt prepared for the exam, but I didn't improve that much taking it the 2nd time. And it just took up so much of my time. Like I had 2 to 3 study sessions a week with her, and I thought I was improving, and like I had no time for like anything, especially with technique for drama. And then I took the test, and then it didn't showcase my results properly. So I just wanted to mention that because I feel like a lot of the time everyone says to students that the SAT is really important, and like you get it and they're like, it's for taking a step on your college journey, but it's like truly not. I feel like maybe I'm biased because I didn't do super well on it, but like I feel like emphasis should be placed more on the other parts of an application than that. So I was just wondering if like potentially when we do PSAT prep or things at NIPMOC, if we could stray away from putting so much pressure on this one exam, because it doesn't determine your future truly. It's just math and English skills.
Are you gonna still be up for sharing your transcript with us? Like your mastering?
I would love to.
All right, I think we should.
Yeah, we should do that.
Dr. Cohen and I work on the
Well,
agenda.
not
so-
today, but we'll
Not
do
tonight,
it.
no.
Well, but we'll probably do it, and maybe we could have some others too. I know we did that, like, was it last year that we did that? It was great. I mean, I talk about it all the time, and so that'd be good for some others to be able to share it to a larger audience.
It's pretty interesting too.
Yeah.
It is engaging because I did like Canva presentations, so there's like pictures on it.
I know you weren't at the last school committee meeting, but I think collectively group, we all realized we learn better through examples.
So do admissions people.
Yeah. So I'd love to see an example or two.
I'd also like to just concur with your statements about the SAT, so don't feel like you're alone there.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel any better, I did terrible on GREs, still got into a PhD.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Cohen, on to superintendent administrative reports.
All right, thank you. And pull that up. I have just a couple topical areas I just wanted to give some updates on. The first one is going to be around the federal funding outlook. As you know, we just went through an election, and we have a lot going on at the federal level, but also at the state level. So if you go to the next slide, there you go. Hopefully you can see that okay. Congress passed a continuing resolution to fund the government through 12/20 of this year. And for FY26, we get a lot of federal funds that come in through like Title I and Title II, 3 and 4. And President Biden and the Senate proposed some increases to that, but the House has proposed a 20% decrease into Title I and also the elimination of Title IIA and Title III. So let me pause and remind you what these things are, right? Which we typically do when we're talking about the grants. So for Title I, we have Title I tutors that are at a couple of our schools. They work with students who are identified and give them extra supports in ELA and in math. For 2A is all about high quality instruction, and that supports our mentoring programs that Cheryl always is coming up and presenting on and highlighting for us, which is a really awesome program, and also our professional development. And thirdly, we have Title III, we've been new to Title III, but that's more supporting our English learners and programming related to that. In the chart, you can see the numbers over the last couple of years of the funding that we've received. We've traditionally, I'll focus on 2A just as an example. When we are trying to plan out for mentoring and PD or paying for, we use vector training program for our PD and also for our EdEval system. Sometimes funds will come out of those grants. When we look at that, we try to figure out how much can be covered operational and how much through the grants. You can see the potential reduction if it does come through where we'd have a reduction in the impact that we might have. We're going to keep an eye on it. It's been decreased. The federal funding has been decreased over the years for the most part. We always hear that it might just be removed. It hasn't yet. We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, when we get to the budget season, which is coming fast and furious, it'll be coming soon, but we'll talk more. Also wanted to give, just to let you know that there could be reductions in federal grants in other areas such as the IDEA, the special education grants. That's our grant 240 grant, our 262 grant. And I'll pause there before I move on to just a couple state funding updates. Any questions on that?
When will this be finalized?
I don't know. Did they say?
Grants,
No, the voting on it.
It's disappearing into the future.
it probably won't be finalized till May or June or July.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were super late with it this year, so.
Yeah. So what we try to do is just track it. And what's nice is for all the different organizations that we're in, so like MASA, MASS, or all the other ones, they'll do updates. We have people who work with the legislation. They come, they give an update. There's national updates. We just try to track it just to have a sense of the trends, even though we don't actually find out the numbers until later. But in some areas, it could be pretty impactful. And we'll keep an eye on that. For state revenue forecasting, the October state revenue report came out. I don't have a slide for this one, but you can keep it on the same slide once you get it up there again. But they posted that on DOR, and the revenue is continuing to track a little bit of the benchmark. And therefore, they recommend to us that we remain conservative in our planning right now for our appropriations this year. And as we think about budget development for next year, until revenues start to turn around. I linked into the notes for you, just more information on that. But this is something that, again, we'll get updates and we'll just keep an eye on it. And if something pops up, we'll let you know. Way back at the beginning of the year, we received a letter related from OSD, and that was related to our special education tuition. They actually had an error in the first letter, and it didn't work out in our favor. When they came back with the new letter, which we linked in here, they actually raised the percentage. And if you recall, over the last, when we track this number, it's gone up a lot over the number of years. But wanted to give you the exact number and those details as well. Okay. MCAS ballot initiative, I kind of put a lot of what I had in my notes up on the slide there, just so when I post this later, people will be able to see some of this. There have been a couple questions that have come out. You'll note on the bottom, there's a lot of guidance on certification or on this information will be forthcoming. And that's at the bottom of their FAQs and a lot of the answers that they give that, well, here's an answer here, but we'll get you guidance in the next month or two. But in essence, just to clarify, the ballot question number 2 eliminated the current requirement for students in Massachusetts public high schools to pass grade 10 MCAS exams in English, math, and science. And that's what we call competency determination, or, we'll put CD because, we like to have lots of letters and education here, in order to receive a high school diploma. To clarify, it does not reduce or eliminate MCAS testing at any grade level. I know some of you know this, I just kind of want to bring it to everyone's attention. It does not change the use of MCAS exams in the state accountability system right now when we have accountability in the reports that come out. It does not stipulate an alternative statewide standard for high school graduation. part of, there were some organizations that were not in favor of this vote because they said you can't just cancel it and not have an alternative. And right now that it removed the statewide graduation standard that Massachusetts had, and a lot of states have some sort of standard like that, but it doesn't have a replacement for that right now. The new law takes place on December 5th. High school students still need to earn what's considered the competency determination in order to graduate. It had been related to qualifying scores on those MCAS tests, but now the language from the ballot is about completing coursework that's been certified by the student's district. And so we have our graduation requirements and our local requirements. This was an area where they said guidance will be forthcoming. They're going to give us some additional guidance if there's anything else related to that. I did link in the DESE FAQ if you were so inclined to read it, if you haven't read it yet. If I get any other updates or questions, I haven't received any questions, but in case you had, I just wanted to at least share a couple of the highlights related to that they released. Right. Next one's a quick one. MSBA, the NITMA proof. Again, I said I'd always have this be a pending item that I could give any updates. We did find out our reimbursement rate and it will not change. It's 52.26%. And that's for only approved MSBA items, which is much higher than we actually anticipated. But I think that's just Jay and I being like, well, maybe we'll get 30, you know, whatever it is, right? But so we were pretty excited when they said that was the number. We asked the question if there's, you know, what are things that could get us out of this program? And they said the only thing that you would be removed from the program is if we fail to meet deadlines or if the towns fail to approve the money in the debt. We will be bringing forward schematic design vote language at a December meeting. We're going to try to shoot for the next December meeting. The latest it would be the second December meeting. They gave us sample language. We're going to work on that sample language for us. Their legal team needs to review it before we come forward. If we get it back in time before that next meeting, then it'll be something at the next meeting. We also had to submit some initial required forms. We submitted our initial compliance form, access forms, and we met with some representatives from MSBA. Jay and I met with them last week, I think it was. Any questions on this?
Well, I guess the only question talked about at the capital planning meeting, did we ever find out if we were to go forward to the towns with a capital what do we call it, expenditure? And if there was a vote on it, whether or not the roof could be included or if it has to be a separate item?
I didn't ask that question, but I'm almost positive it has to be separate. Like 95% positive.
Yeah, because the motion.
It has to, because it's a specific motion for that, right?
For like the first vote is going to be for the schematic design. It's only for the roof. It's not for anything else that we're doing.
That would be here.
Yeah.
Here, he's asking when it goes
The town.
to the town.
I
I
think
believe
they're
it's
going
the
to tell us the
same,
language for that
because
too.
when you click into there and they'll give the samples, you'll see that I'm almost positive it's a separate vote, but I can follow up. I'll read that page again.
Yeah, be curious because the towns might decide not to do a vote. Right? You know, or a ballot vote.
No, they really can't.
Oh.
If we put it up to them and it's part of our assessment, they have to act on it or it becomes a reality. So they have to vote it down if they don't want it, and they have to do that through a vote. If they just ignore it and don't put it up, then
But it could be, that's a town, it could be a town meeting vote.
it's got to be both.
All right. Oh,
It's a debt exclusion, so he has to vote both times. So
got it. Okay, assuming it is a debt exclusion. Okay.
yeah, it's going to be.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Sounds good.
Thanks. And the last slide is an awesome highlight. I know we're going to hear about it in a few ways because it was a great day. So Hannah was part of that as well. But we had the K-12 Climate Change Challenge. We just sent out the press releases, just went out today with a lot more details, and I gave you some, media information in there. But I was able to attend both days, particularly at the beginning of the day with the keynotes. What was really nice, I thought, was Just want to pull this up. It was led by Jim Gorman and Darcy Daniels. They did an awesome job. We had close to 43 school districts present. Now, there weren't necessarily tons from, it was over 2 days because you had an elementary group and you had the secondary group on the second day. So it felt smaller across the 2 days, but what was really nice about the structure of it was it led with the keynotes in the beginning, and which were incredible. I took lots of pictures and reminded me of my love of studying climate change back in the day. But it was just, we had these experts in there. Also, I just want to thank State Representative Ryan Murray for coming and speaking as well and supporting it. I put up on the slide all the partners that we're able to work closely with, either with resources or working with students or offering sessions or sponsor for the whole event. And Dr. Robert Chen from UMass Boston, his presentation was incredible on that second day. The Deputy Climate Chief was on the first day, and it was really impressive. And what some of the highlights and takeaways, and you can see in the quotes of what I shared with you, was the impact on the teachers, because it was about creating this environment and partnerships where you could actually learn how to do some of the projects and activities and make these connections, and then take them back to your schools to work with students. And in the middle of the day, we had our amazing students, and we had college students there as well. Rumor has it, our students were amazing. And we got lots of positive feedback from those that were able to go and see the work that we're producing here at the high school. So I just want to thank their leadership, thank the school and support of everyone here who moved things around to support this activity. But it was a really incredible day to be able to host this over across 2 days last week. Any questions on that?
Say, I really wanted to attend like the climate conference, like as a student, because I'm really passionate about like climate change as a whole. I did want to like learn about it a little more, so like I'll have that.
I'm gonna send you my slides that I took pictures of. Like, what? That's the data? Yeah, no, well, that's the idea in the sense that hopefully it'll spread, through the teachers and what their takeaways were. But yeah, it's definitely something we need to be talking about. That was clear. And one takeaway for me was when the deputy chief was talking of climate, the fact that they have representatives from that department working and assigned to all the other departments for the state, which I thought was really interesting. It made a lot of sense. But if you're working on transportation, then they're influencing anything around transportation. If you have education, if you have buildings, if you have safety, just all of it. So it was fascinating to kind of hear how it plays out within our state government, and it's nice to be a part of that. Last slide. Upcoming events, I just captured a few. We had, there was actually another report card information night that was held tonight at Memorial. We have the early release for the teacher conferences, parent teacher conferences, then the early release for the Thanksgiving recess. And then upcoming, we have the Nipmuc showcase soon after that. And we hope that we have attendees from MISCO and interested families who want to come and see all the amazing things happening here at Nipmuc on that day. That's it. Questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a big soccer game.
Hmm? Oh yeah, a big soccer game, state championship this Friday. It's coming up soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Norton.
Yep.
All right. So we got Ryan Robideau come up and talk to us about a bunch of things. Stuff. Misco Inspired Innovation Center. Questions?
All right. So I hear you like examples. So my thought today was, how can we take this? It's okay. We have this deeper learning framework. So how can we kind of frame it? Like, what does it mean? And then how is that looking across the district right now? So kind of what's happening now and where we're headed towards. So the first thing is, what are the elements? There's 4 elements of deeper learning: agency, reflection, revision, authenticity, and collaboration. So these are the things that we're focusing on. You know, I think maybe agency might be something that needs a little more unpacking sometimes. It's choice, but it's also like students having the power over their learning, like setting their own goals, having the ability to choose how they represent their learning. And we had a leadership team meeting earlier this fall, and it was kind of a very like out of the blue thing. Like each school like suddenly just grabbed onto like one of these elements. Nipmuc is working on authenticity for a while now, but everyone just realized that they're all focusing on one of these areas in some way. And they're kind of taking ownership of being like, we're going to be the school for agency. We're going to be the school to take the lead on reflection and revision. And then it's not that they're the only ones that are doing it, but what can they do to lead and then share that work? So for instance, the authenticity protocol that's happening in Nipmuc, they've developed this protocol and it's starting to go other places. So Memorial did it at a staff meeting, and according to Wendy, it was magical. Like what happened with the teachers and how they were changing their ideas on what they're doing in classrooms. So right now, Memorial's taking a focus on agency. They're trying to develop their own protocol for like, how can we level up agency in experiences in the classroom. They're also doing student-led conferences for the first time this year, which is also happening at Clough. So Clough is also taking that piece. Clough is focusing on reflection. They're doing a lot about student portfolios. Grade 4 students are making a portfolio. Their K-4 students are actually doing portfolios in art class, like finding their products and putting them in there. And they're also working on peer writing and feedback. So looking at other work and then giving feedback to themselves and students. We have the authenticity that's happening at the high school, which includes the pathways. There's also the internship program, which they just announced 40 juniors are going to do this year. So it's double from what was last year. 40 students will participate as juniors this year. And then at MISCO, they've been working with the Ally program starting this year. It's their first year doing it. And their pilot is going to be focusing on, they're looking at feedback, instructional practices to like build up collaboration, but also what we saw earlier tonight. That's like a perfect example of collaboration in the school. That is an example of deeper learning. It's SEL, but it's also having kids, working together to make their own norms and to improve themselves. So what can this look like? So here's just like 2 snapshots. So elementary schools, I don't know when I think this was Halloween. So I was there at the elementary school, and they were doing a book. They were making a book in Memorial. The kids, the 4th graders would make this fairy tale book. They would print it out. Miss Gail would like spiral bind hundreds of things. So we actually talked earlier in the year about like, how could we maybe like revamp that to make it less intensive on her part, but how can we get students to do a little bit more authentic work? So we decided to do it in Canva, and the students had made their storybooks in Canva, which is a tool that is being used in the workplace. But then we figured we might want to try to level up a little more, and we talked about using some AI tools. So Canva has a student data privacy agreement, but they also have AI tools involved in that. So I worked with the kids on how can they use the AI tools to add drawings to their fairy tales. So we started off by drawing pictures, and everyone, I think my example was, it was like sunny day. So everyone had to draw what a sunny day was, and then they all shared their pictures. And then they started to go around. I asked patterns like, what do you notice about all these pictures? They all had some things in common. There's a pattern about what happens when we say sunny day. And then we talked about, that's how the AI is learning. It's just finding patterns. It knows what sunny means. It knows what pictures are related to day. But the more specific I give you instructions, the better your picture's going to be. So they took that back to their storybooks and they made their own prompts, trying to be as specific as they could be for what they wanted to put in there. Another example is, again, at that climate challenge, we had our students out there sharing work they did, reflecting on it, having the agency to go out on an internship, do real work, and then meet with other people and share their experience. So these are 2 examples of what we have, all 4 of them there in those examples for deeper learning. One of the goals this year is to, make a roadmap of all these experiences that we have from K-8. I know downstairs, there's a roadmap of some of those experiences they have in Nipmuc, but how can we have these across the board? So this is just a sneak peek of like what we could have. We have at elementary schools, they're all doing Project Lead the Way. In fact, the CS Plus is there's a whole set of Project Lead the Way elementary activities. The ones that have been chosen at the elementary schools here actually follow the CS Plus pathway, which links them to the digital literacy and computer science standards, which then links up to when they get to middle school and we have the CS programming there. And then eventually at the high school, they have the innovation pathways. One of them is in computer science. At MISCO, they have Project Lead the Way. There's this Teaching with Trout project, which I won't stop talking about. But Lauren Joy has this grant to, they're teaching with trout. We're going to have trout in school, and the kids are going to be watching it grow. They're going to help it grow this big aquarium. And she's looking at how can it be connected to other science classrooms and using it as like a science lab to do real, authentic data analysis and science. We also have our inspiration inspired learning days. At NIMUC, again, we have pathways, internships. Now, none of these include some of our high quality curriculum experiences as well, like there's PBL happening. We have high quality curriculum that has these projects embedded in it. So the goal is by the end of the year, we have some kind of pathway that we can continually add stops along that road. But just to get a sense for us and also for kids to see in elementary school, how does this all connect back up as I'm going down the road? And to support teachers, because this is a lot. And for some people, this might be a big pedagogical shift potentially when they're doing these things. So we've been trying to support folks. I've been running a few PDs on, just AI tools to help differentiate or build up these deeper learning ideas. We have a cohort of teachers that are going to be doing a online amplifying UDL with EdTech teachers starting in December. And then we've tried to get some tools to help them get more information about their students that can help personalize some of this and get the student agency to do things more along what they have. We've just started the whole child reviews in our schools to get more information about our students. There's a website that was put together by some teachers over the summer for our TCAP. So lots of accommodations that you can use in the classroom. Teachers can use this as a resource to find ways to make this type of learning work for all students. And then there's a lot of activity design happening. Like there's a civic action planning. There's a tool that I was working with social studies about helping them, kids get ideas for it. I've been working with the DLCS teachers from K-8 on reviewing the skills that they do in their class and how potentially we can move this over, that the kids can take that skill and tools and apply it in their content area, which is part of that EdTech cohort that I talked about there as well. And I think last time I was here, we talked about the list of tools that we have out there for instructional technology and digital resources. So I've worked with Jay and with like 50 million other documents that we have in the district, and we have a list of all of them. I just put a sample of things that kind of directly hit to the four elements in here, but one of them is that the learning records. Like that is a big piece of agency for kids to have that tool to showcase what they believe is evidence of their learning and whatever it is that their path or the problems that they would like to solve. So a few updates that are not necessarily related about deeper learning. We do have some work with student data privacy. So we've been vetting the software that we have against the Student Data Privacy Consortium. They are a nonprofit group that we work with that has all of this amazing website that we can go to and look up any software that we may have to make sure they have student data privacy agreements so that if we're using those tools, student data will be protected if they're giving up any personal information like signing in with their emails. Cheryl and I have been working to include this as part of the curriculum resource approval. So like, how are we going to get these digital resources that people are like, hey, I went to MassQ and I found this really amazing tool. How can I use this? What's the process to get that approved? This would be a portion of that. I rolled out a cybersecurity awareness training to all staff last month during cybersecurity awareness month. And it's a 39-minute intro training. Our goal is to have everyone do it by June, trying to spice it up with some like fun raffles maybe some offer of like class coverages in a raffle. But the goal is to have everyone complete that by June.
You're giving people 10 months to do a 39-minute training?
Works in education before.
Oh, shit. Okay.
We want to make sure that,
There is a reason for that, though. Part of it is that it came out after our deadline for the mandated training. And
Yeah.
so now we're gamifying it. We're making good progress.
we're making
on it,
progress. A lot of
but
people.
Because it was after the times that we
what's your
normally have
progress?
designated.
What's our progress right now? We've had 50% of people complete the first portion of it. 24% of those have finished the second part, and I've given out 1 Dunkin' Donut coffee card. The next raffle is actually after Thanksgiving, so hopefully we'll have one. And then another thing, we're gonna have an instructional technology survey. So getting more information, surveying staff, surveying students about instructional technology needs, whether it be classroom tech, devices, software, like how can we get more information to make data-based decisions about what we need for technology to support student learning. So I worked with Joe talking about that, and I would like to roll that out sometime soon. So that way we can get some feedback. And then once we can have that linked to our budget discussions as well. Like once we have to make decisions about software, hardware, we want to make sure we know what people need. One more. And then on the horizon is the Inspired Innovation Center. The Trout Tank is the first installation in the newly redesigned IAC. I'm actually going to be running a PD in there tomorrow as well. So we're moving towards having this be a workable space that we can consistently have deeper learning things happening. I'm working with Tara Bennett at the high school. We'd like to get some community service hours for students to come in and help us inventory all the amazing things we have there so that we can start organizing what's there. I talked with Ken the other day about incorporating some OSHA safety. Like we have a lot of tools there that are potentially dangerous. So how can we build in some protocols? How can we put in some markings, some safety equipment to make sure that if people are going to use that side, it's going to be done safely. And I'd also like to have a design challenge. So like on Inspired Learning Day, having kids come in, see the space, make some suggestions on like what they could do, you know, envisioning like 3 kinds of areas. There's the classroom setup that could be an adaptable kind of discovery classroom. There's the studio, that room off to the side that we can use for like multimedia recording, editing. I already know some teachers have been using those spaces for that. There's a need for, you know, you have a class of 25 kids and you need 17 of them to record a video. It's not going to work very well in one space. And then there's that fabrication line side where we have all this prototyping equipment like 3D printers. We have saws, drills, and cutting tools. You know, how can we build that up so it's usable, safe, and applicable to what we're doing for people? There you go.
I have a question on your last bullet.
Yeah.
Is the CNC machine put together and running yet?
I think so. It's there.
Okay. I've heard it's been in the box for 2 years.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of stuff we're finding all the time in there. Like we have all of the stuff. We have all the tools.
Yeah.
It's just how can we organize and design the space to be usable, but also applicable to get teachers into work on. Right? Like how do we get teachers that PD? How do we get them the ideas to go in there and let kids really, you know, have the agency to work with?
I have a question about, we've been discussing this on and off for the past 2 years, I guess. But one of the companies that we're hiring out to, Open Architects, does a lot of data consolidation and puts it in essentially Power BI. That's a cool project for students to do. So understanding relational databases, understanding how they can come out with different data sets and then visualizing it in different formats, even on mobile phones if they have to. All that stuff could be done by some kids understanding Power BI.
So you're having kids like using the data from Open Architects or the data that we're giving?
What Open Architects, my understanding of what Open Architects does is they take our data, they build a relational model out of it, and then they build reports and output from it.
Yeah.
And right now, the reports are really basic, and boy, we could be doing some fun stuff with that data.
Yeah,
Graphically putting it on maps, we could be doing a whole bunch of stuff.
yeah, I think we have, so two pieces on there. One is just the development of student skills and teachers to teach those skills. Because we don't have any classes like that, unfortunately, at the moment. Like, we don't have any database or data science classes in the high school at the moment. You also run into the issue that a lot of this is student data. So if we're gonna be having students working on student data, there is some data privacy issues.
Yeah, you can, yeah, just. You make 100 fake names, 100 things, it's so scary.
But I think but the idea of the data science piece is important. It's a huge field that's growing, and there's a ton of curriculum that's out there and moving towards, like, one of the new pathways from DESE, their career pathways, is data science. They have a course on data science that's linked to Algebra 2. So it's Algebra 2 class linked with data analysis. They have one on the civics project. So what the civics project students would do, it's actually analyzing data, collecting data and analyzing to make some kind of civic action. So I think that's another area that we can do what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think you're absolutely on the mark there. So if you just follow up from just the ability to collect data, clean data, organize it into a model, depict it somehow, then you can move on into statistical analysis and moving into machine learning and then even AI, right? So you get the whole train. Not that I want to jump the gun on every college in the country, but no, but it'd be really cool exposure. And I've already seen 2 programs that were like speed drills through that entire thing that I just mentioned. So it might be worthwhile examining that as some curriculum for a innovation pathway.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Brian.
All right, thanks so much.
All right, let's see, I guess up we've got new business. So we've got a number of field trips here tonight. Is Rob Masick here?
Here we go.
Yeah.
It's a little patience for look at where. Something. It's going to be so PowerPoint's on my life. It's mine. It's part of my life. And here's more detail, lots of detail. Front of that, look. There. Go. Go. So I'm basically coming for the school committee today to ask for approval to a trip to Japan in 2026. So the trip, I think, is really interesting from like a cultural and historical perspective. We'll get to that in a little bit. I think it's their culture and their history is so different from ours. So I think it's a great opportunity for kids to come out and see a modern economy, see a different culture, see a different way of life, right? So we're going to travel with Explorica and Kate over there. We've been using Explorica for years. So I think the school committee, I think the school is generally understands how quality Explorica is and what they do to support us, right? The trip destination cities are going to be Tokyo, Hakone, Takayama, and Kyoto. And each of those are going to have a different flavor to them. The dates of the trip are looking June 22nd, 2026 to June 29th, 2026, which will be in summer session at that point. So we won't really be missing any school. Participants, I'm going to open it up to parents as well as any Nipmuc Regional High School students, right? 9 through 12 are eligible to come on the trip. And the cost per participant for the trip, which includes airfare, is $4,642 for basically 8 days. Okay, so that's basically the summary of what the trip is. Now, we go to the next page, next slide real quick. The highlights overview, we're really looking for is trying to get the kids to cultivate like their global citizen skills, they're mindful learners through kind of an immersive exploration of Japan's history, culture, and technological advancements. So in that vein, we start off in Tokyo. And we're gonna look at firsthand at how like a modern culture is. It's the largest city in the world by population. Its population is equal to that of Canada's population in one city. So it's very modern, has a lot of technology, a lot of business. The kids will definitely go to the Akihabara district, which is a pop culture district strictly made for kids. So think Pokemon, all of that, modern clothes, all of these different things, all lined up in streets and shops for them to take a look at. That'll be part of the experience in Tokyo. So what we're looking at, we're going to try to see how their economy, and their innovation is interconnected with us. How does the US relate to Japan? Then we're going to kind of switch gears. In the middle of the trip, when we go to Hakone and Takayama, we're going to look more at the religious and the cultural side of Japan and visiting shrines and different places of worship and natural beauty. So Japan has a culture of integrating natural beauty with their religion and their culture, right? Sort of like Chinese feng shui, they call it feng shui. Right? And the middle part of the trip will be doing that, including a cruise on Lake Asi, which is really beautiful, the mountains in the background and the shrines in Hakone. All right, so we're going to look at tradition, natural beauty on those two things. And the last one we're going to look at, the last trip to Kyoto, we're going to look at the historical perspective of Japan, right? They came from a feudal system, right? Much different than ours, right? So we're going to really look at the examination of the history of Japan's feudal system, how it came to be, and then how they ended up in a modern context that we know democracy as today, right? So there will be a nice historical perspective on the last two cities as well. So we'll visit an old castle. We'll talk about the feudal systems, how many different feudal systems there were in Japan, and looking at cultural empathy, right? We're going to look at what they did in the feudal systems, and we'll talk about that as well, some historical perspectives. So I think it's good for the kids to get a more global awareness of kind of outside of our culture, of what we're like. Let's go take them to another country where it's a totally different culture, totally different value system in a way, right? What's similar and what's different than ours, right? And how did they like grow over the years, and where are they headed to, right? Where are we going, right? So that's basically the educational purpose of the trip. So it's going to be a cultural, religious, historical, and more of a modern economy business city like Tokyo. All right, seeing that. So it's a little bit of flavor of everything. Right. And the next page is real quick, just an overview of the trip. It's an 8-day trip. In the other packet, there's more detail on page 14 about what we're exactly seeing in each of these cities, right? So we're going to start off with Tokyo. We're going to look at the Tokyo landmarks. We're going to go to the different parts of Tokyo. Day 4, we're going to go to finish Tokyo, go with Hakone, right? And that's more the cultural, religious transformation piece of it and the architectural piece of it. And then we're going to go look at the historical spots on day 5 and day 6 in Tokuyama and Kyoto. And then we're going to leave from Kyoto to home, okay, to here. If we go to the next slide, safety supervision and trip protection, right? So the chaperones, they said a ratio of 5 to 1 participants to teacher chaperone. We're gonna have a dedicated tour guide on this trip, right? I do not speak Japanese, so there'll be somebody with us 24/7 on this trip. Any emergency procedures, medical concerns, lost passports, all that stuff. We'll have someone there, a dedicated person there to work us through those occurrences if it happens to be. There is travel insurance available through TripMate. So you have a couple of travel protection plans for each parent and each child. $176 is the basic one. It just covers sickness, injury, death in the family, 100% refund for that. If you select the travel protection plus plans, a little bit more, but then you can cancel for any reason, 100% refund. You can get 75% back if you cancel within 48 hours of the trip. We look at the next slide, right? So trip's going to abide by district travel policies. Will be done in the summer of 2026, so the kids won't be missing any school. Communication with parents and guardians, we're going to do that through the Explorical website, email, meetings, consent forms, right? Other communications like newsletters from NITMUC, things like that. is how we're gonna communicate with parents and guardians, okay, through that process. And the last slide I have is the academic and trip options. So students 9 through 12 can earn college credit, which I think is a pretty good deal, actually, through George Mason University. So one credit, doesn't get you much, it's $110, but you can get up to a 3-credit social studies class in college for $330. I'm sure they're gonna have to do some work with that, right? They're just gonna give it to you, but they'll have to do some sort of work, maybe on the historical perspectives that we're gonna see, or the cultural perspectives of like the last 3 or 4 cities, right? But for $330 for 3 credits, I think that's a fantastic bargain, if any students want to take advantage of that, right? Upgraded accommodations are going to be available too for students, right? Participants can upgrade to a double room, or triple or quad, because that's what they're going to be assigned to. And also there's a stay behind option if parents or caregivers want to meet the students at the end of the trip and want to continue a trip, since it's kind of an exotic, faraway location. You might want to have a once in a lifetime opportunity to go meet someone and go travel around a little bit on your own as well. That's the highlight of the trip, and that's kind of what we're looking at. Do you guys have any questions?
I guess my only question is, you mentioned here it's a ratio of 5 to 1.
Yeah, student parents to teacher chaperones.
So
yes.
are you capping it at 5 until you get?
Oh, no, we won't cap it. No, we won't cap it at 5. 5 people alone will allow us to take the trip. So we just need 5 people to sign up for the trip.
Yeah.
If we get up to 15, then we have the option of making it a private trip, which we can do a couple different things, depending on what the participants want to do.
So what if you run into a situation where you get 15 students but no chaperones or teachers?
I think we could find a couple. I think we could find. She's right here. Kate will go. I've already had a couple teachers say, sure, I'll volunteer,
Okay,
Um,
so I assume that the cost for chaperones built into this.
yeah, exactly, right. They want to make sure that there's someone from the school to watch over at least 5 children, right? Sometimes it's 6, right? Depending on what the trip you run. But they want to make sure it's well covered. So, you're on top of the kids and where they are.
No, absolutely. I was just curious how you work your way through that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Students in 9th to 12th grade.
Yes.
Starting the end of next school year, so it's current.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so I guess, yeah, that's interesting. It probably, I haven't thought of that one, but I was thinking of the 9 through 12 here now. But yeah, I guess we would make it available to 8th grade students, I guess, coming in as freshmen. Right, I could make that available if that's okay with you guys. Maybe not. I mean, they're a little young.
Well, they'd be between their freshman and sophomore years. The summer 26, so a current 8th grader.
Oh, I see, yeah.
They'd be-
Seniors are excluded because they.
Yeah, seniors are
Because
excluded,
it's
so we need
not
to,
for,
yeah,
I keep thinking it's like this.
It's not summer 25.
yeah.
There'd be enough time.
Right, we need a couple of years out to run that trip, yeah, so definitely they will be included.
Yeah.
What is the timeline for signups and reaching out to families?
We're looking at getting something started relatively quickly, because we want to see the level of interest, engage that, and then move off on that. So we're looking at December 12th as an information meeting for students and parents that are interested in coming. And I'm going to do that via Mendon-Upton newsletter, emails to students, our student database here in the next, if it's approved, in the next few days to get the interest going, right? Morning announcements, those type of things to get the message out. I'll make, in my classes as well, I'll make some announcements, but I have mostly seniors, so they'll be jealous that they can't go. I have one student who speaks Japanese. Do you know Marie Nien? Yeah, she speaks Japanese, and she's like, "Oh, you're running a trip." I'm like, where were you? Yeah.
Yes, that was gonna be one of my comments, is how are you gonna deal with backlash of all the people that have missed out?
Yeah, people missed out, yeah.
The China trip that you had planned, my girls are all in and COVID came.
Yeah, I timed that one perfectly, didn't I? Perfect, like timing.
What's the dotted line to Hiroshima? Is that an optional?
There are some, well, let me see, the dotted line in Hiroshima. Yeah, that would be a side trip. That would probably cost a little bit more. It's not included in the $4,600. So that would be a side trip. We could go to Hiroshima and get that perspective, obviously on World War II, the perspective from the Japanese side of it. On a side trip, we want to do that.
This is jam-packed, man.
Yeah, it's jam-packed. The good thing, it's a small country, so buses and we could get around pretty quickly. Tokyo it's kind of amazing, 37 million people. It's not the largest metropolis in the world, but it's small, but it's very densely populated. Yeah, there is also another option, which I didn't want to mention, but it could happen if the other people are interested, would be like Disneyland Tokyo. But I don't really consider that quote educational, but that might be fun from a cultural perspective. Right? Hannah, what do you think?
I really want to go to Disneyland Tokyo. It's like my dream.
They're gonna put you up in the hallways, you realize that?
Right, right. So really, like, if you're probably really interested in anime, this is a good trip for you.
What about like freshmen? It's like in college.
Freshman in college, you can come back.
Could she be a chaperone?
She could be a chaperone now. Yes, you could. She could be a chaperone.
So just a comment about Explorica, I always thought that they were very high quality and worthwhile, so that's.
Yeah, they were good to work with. Well, it took a little teeth pulling before with the China trip, but they were good to work with at the end, through the COVID and all of that. So in the end, it kind of worked out well.
Went to Ecuador with Explorica. It was really nice. It was really fun.
Yeah. So the accommodation, the hotel accommodations, they're standard accommodations. I mean, they're not upscale, they're not downscale, they're right in the middle. So I think Kate can speak to that. I think they do a decent job of finding good accommodations that are solid, that aren't, you're like, oh geez, this isn't some Jersey Shore motel, somewhere, something, that type of thing.
Any other questions? Okay. Motions?
Motion to approve the trip to Japan in 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Great.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I really do.
Explain most of it, I can just kind of piggyback.
All right.
I won't even sit down. Hello, my name is Kate Reardon. I'm one of the Italian teachers here at NIPA. And I'm here for the trip that we've done a ton of times already, so I did not print anything, I apologize, but you have all the same info in your pamphlets as well. So my trip is for April vacation of 2026. So I've been doing all of my trips during April vacations. This will be my 15th trip here. So very exciting. This year we're doing Switzerland, Germany, and Austria. So we're very excited, but this will be Italy. So I do this every other year because obviously teaching Italian, I want to bring my students to the place that they've been learning all of the languages. It is open to any student who is a junior or senior next year. So I'll be advertising to sophomores and juniors this year, and we always do it every other year. So they always will have the opportunity. So it's kind of nice just to make it more of an upperclassman trip, and then everyone will get their opportunity in their junior or senior year. It is the exact same trip I have been pedaling for years. It is, you can see, where we start in Milan, we go to Venice, Florence, Verona, Rome, Pompeii, Sorrento, and then we fly. So we're flying into Milan, kind of doing a zigzag down the country and flying out of Rome. It is a private tour, so Mr. Messick had talked about private tours. So I usually do fill a bus on this tour because it's kind of come to know that the students like it. And so we can kind of customize our trip a little bit more. So I have upgraded our Florence hotel. I always upgrade so we can be in the city center. I used to live in Florence, and it's a very walkable city, and I feel safe, like kind of going out and getting gelato after dinner in that city. So it's really nice to be downtown. If not, you could be an hour ride outside of the city. We don't want to waste our time riding around. I also upgraded the Sorrento hotel to again be city center, because sometimes you can be really high up in the mountains, and once you're there, you're kind of stuck for the night. So at least if we're in the city center, we can go out, walk around. Last year we went to karaoke, so that was fun. And what else? I've added in the Academia visits to go see the David. So it's just like the gondola ride in Venice. And the cooking class. Last year was the first year I did the cooking class, and the kids absolutely loved it. So it was really, really fun. So I literally kept it the exact same from 2024. Unfortunately, it is 2 years later, so the price is a little different as things move up. They just keep getting more and more expensive, unfortunately. But I felt this actually isn't that much more expensive than last year, but this does include all tipping. the standard for each tipping. So I always collect a little bit more to give, to make it a good tip for everybody. It includes the travel protection plus, and it is also with a $200 discount. So that discount runs till the 19th. It was a little late this year getting here, because I was trying to figure out this April's trip and get that situated. So it is gonna be a quick turnaround. Obviously, you can sign up after the 19th, and I will probably talk to Explorica. Maybe we can do $100 for another month or so, see, but they haven't discussed that yet. Like Mr. Messick said, everything is included as well, everything except lunch and souvenirs. So anything that is listed is already paid for, all the museums and everything. Question. So it is April vacation. Over the past few years, I do know I might get some pushback. We always leave on the Wednesday night before April vacation. And it is with good reason, but you tell me what you'd like. I did do it on the Thursday night once. We were only missing the one day of school. But the way that the itinerary goes, we were in Rome on the Wednesday. And the Pope does a speech every Wednesday out in the middle of St. Peter's, and it really ruined the day because we couldn't go into the Vatican in the morning, so we had to like zigzag around town just because it was a Wednesday and the Pope was there. So that was why I originally had moved it. So you can let me know that the price would not change if you'd like me to move it to Thursday night departure. So that is up to you, and that gets us home so the chaperones at least have a day to do their laundry. And also DECA usually leaves right after that, so it kind of gives us a little bit of buffer. Last year I also chaperoned DECA. I think about 5 to 7 students went to Italy with me and then came to DECA, so we spent a lot of time together last year. Trying to think if I missed anything. Again, it is with Explorica. I've used them for all of my trips. Like Mr. Messick said, I had an Italy trip also for 2020. That was a horrible year. Felt very attacked, the two of us. China and Italy were the first hit, but they have consistently given the best refunds, even with the whole COVID thing. But that is also why I have them do the protection plus. So it's not an option, they keep the plus. So I just rambled. Is there any question?
Discussion or questions? I mean, I'll jump right in, because you've probably seen the videos for somebody warned anyways.
Somebody warned me, yes.
I struggle with the missing the school days.
It is
I really
tough.
do, because I've asked questions about why don't we do certain things? and
Yeah.
The answer I always get is, well, time learning, time that, you know, and so it's hard to approve, because only a fraction of the kids go. I'm sure you have
Yeah.
70, 80, 100 students you teach regularly, and so 80 students are sitting with a substitute, which then costs the district money, which I'm sure is not built into the cost.
Yes.
I mean, my vote would be, my preference would be to leave on Friday or Thursday or Friday. You know, even on Friday, you can still get the 9-day trip in, get back on Sunday. I get it sucks.
Yeah,
I travel for business. I get back at
Yeah.
midnight, 1 a.m. all the time, show up to work the next day. It sucks,
it does.
but it's also learning's important. And it's not just the kids on the trip that miss class. It's all the kids that you teach who get stuck with the substitute. I guess, yeah. Anyone else wanna
Yeah, any
throw
other
thoughts
thoughts?
out or do a motion, but
No.
Yeah.
What's up? Do you have any idea what the typical size is?
For the group,
Yeah, the group.
I'm aiming for, last year we had 45, so I usually get between 40 and 45 students.
it's awesome.
And that's 6 to 7 teachers.
It is.
But then it's like, it's just us on a bus. It's so nice. We don't have to worry about any other school and what they want to do.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they love it. And usually about half are our students that do take Italian. So the others are just ones who want to come to
So
Italy.
you said it's like, it would be like 6 to 7 of our.
Usually it's 6 to 7 teachers. Yeah.
It's a lot, and then all
that's
their
that
students,
gets.
right? You know,
Oh, I get
all
that.
of
I
a
get
sudden
that.
now 14, 18 substitute days and. I'm
Yeah,
not sure, Josh,
considering that, I definitely go send Thursday or Friday.
So I have one complaint about your.
Yes.
Do you know where it's coming from?
No. Dude, I don't know.
No, oh God, she wanted to speak Italian more. I'm good.
It's so tough. The Italians just want to speak English with
Well,
everybody.
as soon as they detect you.
So annoying. They hear the accent and they're like, okay, I'm gonna practice my
Is
English.
there any way to
Is there any way to do something about that?
It's tough. We try on the tours, but then again, only half the group speaks Italian, so we can't run a tour in Italian. I do tell them it is, well, on your free time, you just need to keep answering. And like, they'll hear my American accent sometimes and keep talking to me in English. And if you respond enough, they'll be like, okay, this person doesn't want to speak English. But we are in the tourist places, and a lot of times a tourist will learn buongiorno or something like that, and then someone speaks back to them in Italian, and they're like, I don't know what else to say. So I think that people in those places have learned that, yeah, they might know 2 words in Italian, but that's it. So we do try to get the tour guide, Ilaria, where I did request to have the same tour guide from last year. And the bus driver, we didn't have great luck with the bus driver. They always love talking to the students usually and teaching them stuff. But yeah, I can't run anything in Italian unless I'm going to only have Italian students come. I don't want anybody to go. So. I would say I'm personally okay with Thursday. Friday would be tough. Just, I don't know if I'd get teachers to come if they knew they were coming home late on Sunday night, giving up their vacation with their own families, and then.
It's part of life.
It is, yes.
So what's is that Friday gonna be a half day?
It's not next year,
It's
no.
not?
This year it is, but next year it is not.
Okay.
I think it's a lot earlier. I did look that up when Smith told me.
But we also could add an extra day to the calendar, closed. No, if we have 8 teachers out at the high school, it's something we can consider when we look at the calendar.
Yeah.
And that way, the teachers can have their Sunday and then make up the day in June. You look at me like I'm crazy.
I'm trying to have a poker face.
I've never been known for that either.
I mean, no, listen,
I mean,
I'll
all
throw it out
options
there.
are always on the table.
I mean,
I would have to double check Friday if that changes the price, because it's now a weekend on both that does change. I'm not just trying to say so we could leave a day early. But Thursday didn't change it, and I only asked for that. It could potentially change like the flight numbers.
It's hard, right? I mean, there was a situation last year, I'll just say it, in person, like in the middle school, where there was like 3 days before implication that everybody went to Spain. And then there was some other trip, a band trip, that was like the first 3 days back. Like, I literally had a son who's like, Dad, I had 6 days of substitutes. You know, in the middle of vacations. Like, holy shit. It's kind of crazy. And so I think we need to set a precedence that these trips are awesome, but band trips, these trips, other trips, we got 9-day windows. That's when we need to run them. So I'll make a motion that we approve the trip leaving on Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
For the trip.
Leaving on the Thursday, does that put you in the problem with Rome?
Yes, that's why I originally, my first year, I did a big Italy trip. It was like 2012 was the first big one. And that was when I found the problem. So when I came back, I talked to John about it, and nobody said anything at school committee, so we did it. And that's what we've done since then. But I understand, I totally get it. So they'll have to just figure it out. And the day is just, it's already a crazy day. We'll just be running around. So it is what it is. They still will see everything.
Right.
It's just that we can't do it in the logistical way to actually walk around Rome.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the trip with a Thursday or Friday departure for April 2026 to Italy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cool. Thank you very much. Sorry to,
I get it. No, I get it. I knew what I was
I do
walking
appreciate
into.
everything you do. All right. And we got one more field trip if they dare come up.
This is me, so I'm
Okay.
here. It's actually on behalf of Jen D'Angelo, who couldn't be here tonight, and this is out of state, but it was in Woonsocket, and so it's coming like, it still is out of the state, but they didn't really think about it as being an out of the state because it was so close, and then realized that it was, and technically had to come forward. So it is actually for this Friday.
Why don't you show up?
Yeah, but that's okay. It's to bring a number of their students that are working in the life skills program. It's grades 5 through 12. There are about 20 students, a number of chaperones because there's a lot of support there, and ABA techs as well. And it's just a day trip during the day, going to see The Little Mermaid and at the Stadium Theater in Woonsocket. So.
Are the chaperones all part of the program?
Yeah,
Okay.
they are, yeah.
So no substitute.
When you said that, I thought like the program, like Little Mermaid, like. I don't know. That is my favorite one. No, but yeah, they are in the books. Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
I'll make a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip to a movie. The Little Mermaid, or a show, right?
Yeah.
On November 22nd.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
All right, I think next up we've got Dr. Rob Zagoy and Nick Colbo on the middle school improvement plan.
3 more field trips to.
Yes,
you guys.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for having us here tonight. So we're excited to talk about our improvement plan for the next year. What you'll find in the plan is, if you can go to the first slide, we do have some goals in all 4 priority areas within the strategic plan of the district. And what you'll also find is many of the places where we're looking to do work are really continuations on journeys that we've been on for a while. So there are a few places where it's kind of pivoted a little bit, but there's a lot of places where we're trying to move forward or continue work we've done in the last years at MISCO. So in our first area of deeper learning, we are continuing, MISCO has been on the journey of project-based learning. So we've come off our work that we were doing with PBL Works over the last few years. And so now we're looking to continue that work and to grow our practice in that area and contribute to the district's overall work in deeper learning. And so, one of the places where we're looking to continue to support teachers is thinking critically about new teachers that have joined our staff. How do we continue to engage teachers that maybe were not part of that initial group of teachers, although the vast majority of our teachers were trained through PBL, and how do we continue to make our units stronger, ensuring that our students are getting high quality experiences. So kind of in this overall area, we've started to think about not just project-based learning, but our project Lead the Way. We're thinking about high quality curriculum resources that we're pulling in, and are they connected to these types of experiences for students? And in the 2 places that we're really looking to grow our practice is in creating those community connections. Nick is doing some work to try to pull together a survey and engage our community and see where people's expertise lie. And then we will begin to engage teachers in looking at how can we use that in their unit design, in units that they're already creating. We're looking at refining and promoting practices around collaboration. And so for us, this was a really natural place to do work as we're doing some work around behavior and culture. So we're looking at this whole idea of us as a school community and how we're working together. And collaboration was this really natural place where we were having a lot of, we're seeing a lot of connection within our classrooms, but how can we make those stronger collaborative experiences for students? So we're really deepening their thinking. So we are lucky enough to be part of the Applied Learning Leadership Institute through the 1-8 Foundation this year. Nipmuc was part of that same partnership last year, and they did a lot of their work around authenticity. We've decided to focus on collaboration as our area of focus, and we'll be working with some pilots for the teachers. And then we are continue to be engaged in the redesign of our schedule. So if you remember last year, we were looking, we were starting to look at our schedule. Were there any minor tweaks we could make? There weren't really minor tweaks that we could make in our schedule, but our committee is continuing along, and we're looking for places to think about how we best meet the needs of our students, grades 5 through 8, which is a, kind of a unique configuration, and with some
interesting needs, and also how can we use our schedule to promote the kind of experiences we want for kids, and also maybe partner with our colleagues across the district. So that, we talked about last year, that idea of, are there places within our schedule that we can align with the high school to maybe utilize resources to offer more things to our students at the middle school? Those are places that we're working. High quality curriculum and instruction. We continue our review of curriculum and alignment. So we're using Atlas as our, kind of how we're housing curriculum. This is work that's been ongoing in the district for a number of years. And so we're really at this place where we're revisiting that work. We're ensuring that we're up to date. We want to make sure that what we have to offer, particularly new teachers, that we're constantly reflecting on the work that we're doing, and that we have the most updated resources. We are piloting new curriculum in a number of places. We are piloting an ELA curriculum in 5th grade this year. So they went through a review process last year to select a new curriculum resource for our 5th grade teachers. They are piloting that this year. We are also looking for places. We have some teachers piloting investigating history units, which again are also connected to our work with deeper learning. Those are important places. We're lucky enough to have our 2 7th grade math teachers, actually 3 7th grade math teachers, piloting 2 units for PBL Works. So they're giving feedback on that. Our students are taking advantage of that. One place that we are looking to grow our practices around writing, particularly looking at our student data. And so we're starting that work with our faculty tomorrow in our faculty meeting as a whole, and starting to look at that, our most recent data around writing, and start to take an inventory of the writing experiences that our students have. So trying to look at it holistically as a faculty and then dive down from there, and continuing to use data to inform the practice that we have. In the area of equity, inclusion, and well-being, a lot of these are places where we were doing work last year, and we're continuing that work. We're continuing to look at our guiding documents to ensure that they're accessible to our families, and expand opportunities for engaging our community. It's not up here on the board, but it's within our plan, just that understanding that, ensuring that we have translation available for families. We're seeing families take advantage of that at our open houses, at student conferences. We're making those efforts to make sure that we have access to teachers for all of our families. We're expanding our opportunities for self-reflection. So, you heard about work for student-led conferences at the elementary. We're also looking for places within our classrooms to ensure that our students are reflecting on their work, and expand that. A big piece of work that was done over last year, and really was a place where the faculty together, I feel like they really came together to talk about behavior and culture, and the understanding that we needed greater consistency and being able to support students in meeting those expectations. Students want to meet our expectations, so we need to be clear about them and how do we help them in that area. So we did a lot of work over the summer to articulate expectations, rolled it out to students, and also this idea of, when students are meeting our expectations, when they're bumping up against those, what we would want for them, how are we engaging with them from a restorative perspective first, and a teaching perspective first. Not that discipline or consequences don't come into play at times, but also thinking about how do we support kids in that growth in middle school. So that's a place that we're working together as a whole faculty. Our whole child review process, we began a pilot in 5th grade last year. And really that is a process of, you think about a whole child review and looking at all of our students and looking at them holistically, not just in their grades, but where are their strengths, where are their places of need, where is their growth happening. So how can we kind of understand the whole child as a team to be able to best serve them. So really expanding that process forward. All of our grade level teams right now, as part of their student team time, because they have that built into their schedule, are really making an effort to ensure that they're having the opportunity to talk about each kid in their grade level team and make sure that every student gets that time within that conversation. And then our counseling team, as they presented today, really thinking about how do we engage community supports for our families. So how do we expanding that? And that's a place where our counseling team in particular is working. And then the last piece is under community support. So refining our practices around communication and building consistency. We've talked, recently about like how do we engage families. One of the places that you'll see a change this year is in our conference schedule. Typically in the past, the middle school teams have conferenced as a team, but it's a really short amount of time with each family, and you have a number of teachers. We're working on a schedule this year where families are able to schedule a conference with each teacher, and ultimately that gives you more, cumulative time, and they're getting time, focused time with each teacher they can schedule. The only team that isn't doing that is in 5th grade. Because of the change in our scheduling for 5th grade, we're able to have 2-person teams. We felt it was reasonable to have families conferencing with those 2-person teams in 5th grade, but 6 through 8. We're piloting that this year, and we will be seeking feedback on that from families after the conferences to see how that went, and also feedback from teachers as well as we go through. Ongoing review of our website. I feel like that's a task that's never done and needs to constantly be up there to remind us that we need to continue to look at it. I think every time we kind of go into our website, we're finding places where, oh, that needs to be updated. We need to make sure that that's a little tighter, and also just making sure that our website is, again, accessible to all families, that you can find the information that you need, and the information that's on there is updated and accurate. And we're continuing to refine our crisis protocols in particular. So again, that's ongoing work. We did quite a bit of work last year within the building, but we're consistently working with our fire and police in Mendon to ensure that our building is safe, and working with students on that. One addition that we were very fortunate to be able to purchase last year was updated walkie-talkies for our building that actually have the range of our campus, which is, kind of changed our evacuation protocols and how, we're working to refine that and make that more efficient and ensure that we can communicate in the case of an emergency at this building. So those are all the places that we're continuing to work this year. So open for any questions from to either of us.
It's, this list is huge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and this, all these plans have been huge since when I arrived in the school committee. So where would you think is the area of highest priority where you would like to make the most progress?
Oh, that's a great question. I think some of the foundational places within our school that we're looking to make the greatest strides are really around ensuring that all of our students are getting consistent experiences and across our school, right? Like, so around that curriculum work that we're doing, we're in this review cycle for ELA right now. We had a great launch today as a team. So just that, that coming together to work together, I think that we've really made a point to do that in the last year. And I do think the behavior and culture piece is a big one for us at the middle school. I think we continue to see the ripple effects of the COVID time period, and maybe some of the social learning lost for kids during that time. And, we see it when they come, particularly to a middle school setting where maybe that demand around learning becomes more social. And we've got a lot of kids in our building, we're a big school. And we've got a broad developmental age range, right? So we're working with kids as they're exiting elementary and they're getting ready to launch to the high school. And so it is really important that we're working, and it really is an SEL component, that behavior and culture, that ultimately impacts classrooms and impacts learning for kids. And so that's why, as we have gone to think about, like, okay, as we're diving into deeper learning and we're starting to look at these components, whether you're in regardless of what kind of learning experience you're in, collaboration is a really important one for us to draw on. So really trying to make those connections and the things that we're doing has been important to us, and also to make as you said, it's a big plan, right? There's a lot of things in there. And so how do we connect those dots for our teachers? So it doesn't feel like we're doing separate things to try to build some cohesion in our plan. So.
Which, I know we heard part of the plan from high school. They were talking about maybe reaching down more into Misco Hill to try to coordinate some of the tracks. We have a number of things like language, science that aren't as developed in middle school in order for us to provide some of the AP programs and things that we could use in the high school. So I didn't read anything here.
Yeah, well, I think our schedule is one place, right? Because I think some of that collaboration happens when we align our schedule. And some of the things that you're talking about are things that we're talking about within our scheduling committee about how do we build consistency for language so that students are developing, outside of SI, our SI students have, had a long history of that consistency in language exposure about if students are starting language in the middle school, ensuring that they can build some competency over that time. So then as they go to the high school, they can continue with that language learning.
That's kind of what I was aiming at.
I mean, it's on our minds. I know that we've had some collaboration between our, in our digital, in our computer science offerings, have started to have those conversations. And I think anytime when we have those opportunities for district days where we're collaborating with our colleagues across the district and talking about curriculum from that like larger lens, allows us to have, to kind of think about those places where we can make those connections, and also helps us understand some of the constraints and successes at each level as well.
Yeah, as part of the conversation with computer sciences at NIMBUC, this year we piloted in 8th grade, we now offer a Python course for coding for our 8th graders. And then 8th graders now have the option second semester to continue an independent study within the 8th grade design and modeling course to continue and further their knowledge base in preparation for 9th grade.
It's awesome.
Any other questions?
Looking at the actual school plan, I'm just looking at the person's responsible column, and this is not something that is probably should ask the other schools.
Yeah, very
It's
similar.
a lot of administrators, teachers, faculty, administration, faculty, like with so many people who are both responsible, like, do you have actual point people assigned to like drive any of these initiatives, or is it just kind of like something that you discuss in staff meetings and everybody's just?
I think it depends on what it is. There are some places where we're in faculty meeting and we're working on it together. It might be Nick and myself that are leading that work, or leading a committee of people that are then bringing it back. So I think it depends on where the touch point is. So for instance, like if I think about scheduling, ultimately it's going to take our whole faculty to have buy-in to that. We have a committee that's, very representative actually of our elective teachers, of core academic teachers, of grades 5 through 8, special educators. So I feel like we have a committee that has good representation and voice, but ultimately we're going to have to bring that back to everybody and make some decisions together as we move forward. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, you vertically evaluate like this, having the diffuse responsibility isn't necessarily the best way to put it. There should be a point person. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff here, especially to go down and say, oh, this is so and so, the 6th grade social studies team is responsible for, but at the same time, it can't all fall on your shoulders. So I'm just wondering if you kind of planned out. I was wondering if there was a plan to kind of more drill down on some of these things.
Some things are whole faculty, some things start, the level of responsibility is different depending on what it is. For different groups of people, our department leaders are very involved in curriculum work and in some of the deeper learning work and kind of leading that with their departments. We work with them directly and also work with faculty. So I think it depends.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you both could answer this, would be great. What's something that you've started with this year that you're just really jazzed about, really excited about? Nick, do you mind going first?
Yeah, absolutely. The work that we're doing around PBIS or setting behavior and culture has been really exciting and charging. Just kind of like finding Misco's identity in terms of like clearly setting what our values are, engaging with students in that conversation around a community of being respectful, responsible, and safe learners. That has allowed us to like frame our conversations as opposed to like, what our rules are and like how we're violating these rules is like, how did your actions, help us become respectful, responsible, safe individuals? And what different changes can we make? And how does our actions impact others outside of ourselves, right? Middle school is very much, we're focused on ourselves. It's just a natural progression in our development. And how do we pause and reflect on how our actions and words impact others and engaging not only like a full, like either a grade level conversation, or sometimes I have to have that one-on-one conversation or group and figuring out, okay, what's the restorative action that kind of coincides and correlates these pieces, and also analyzing the data. If I'm having multiple conversations, now I'm using data to drive a more tier one intervention. Like, hey, I really need to have a grade level assembly, or I need to bring in an external voice to, be a presenter to, really hone in on a need in either grade 5 or grade 7. So I'm really excited about that work.
And I would echo that. I have 2 actually. So I would echo that. And I think just kind of being at Misco over the last year and seeing the engagement from faculty around it was really important to me. And I think that they've kind of come together. I've seen grade level teams working together really to kind of set this foundation for behavior. And I think it's made a difference when I'm walking into classrooms too, right? Like across a grade level. And I think the other piece of that, alongside that is the conversations, particularly that I see Nick having with kids in those reflective conversations on those times that they are, they do end up in the office for something. And, I've seen a difference there. Like they're more ready, I think, to have those conversations, that they really are becoming more learning experiences for kids, which I think is really important. Alongside that, I'm also really excited about the work that we're doing with Ally and the impact that could have on instructional practices. So like thinking about how can we take some of the things that we're doing and we know that collaboration is, let's say collaboration is what we're working on. We know from our data from faculty that they value it. They value collaboration in their classrooms. We know from our kids, they want to work together. So how can we use those experiences to build stronger learning communities in our classroom, but also to kind of think about, okay, if we want to create these experiences where kids can kind of go deeper with their thinking, how do we teach them how to do that? So, we're talking about like a discourse protocol. How do we help them with accountable talk when they're paired together and they're sharing their ideas about something? Because that's the thing, it's kind of almost like the 3 C's, right? Like when you don't know what to do when you're having a conversation, here are 3 places to start. When you're not sure how to give feedback, here are some sentence stems to help you in that conversation. So how do we help kids build those skills that are going to help them have deeper conversations with one another that ultimately move their thinking and their work forward? So I'm excited about the possibilities of that work.
Questions? All right, we need to make a motion to approve the plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the school improvement plan for a year, I guess.
Yeah.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Great. Well, thank you both very much for coming.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, on to the subcommittee updates. I don't think the budget committee hasn't met since our last meeting. Okay. And the next meeting is on the 11th. Since you guys know, I won't be able to make that. I'll make sure Jim and Sean, you guys are both available to get to quorum anyways.
Yep.
All right, policy subcommittee, you guys met tonight?
We did, so we reviewed a couple of policies that we're bringing forward for first reading, those are BGB and BGC. So you can see we just made some very minor changes to those to sort of mirror the language in the suggested MASC policy. And then we also have a new policy, BGF, that is in the MASC manual, but is not currently one of our policies. So we've added that and bring it forward for a first reading as well. And then we also reviewed policy BGD, and we made no changes to that. So reviewed, but no further action needed there.
The new policy, I don't have access to it. It's shared with.
Yeah, it was a new document we just created. I'll share it with you so you guys can read that.
All right, so we'll go through these at the next meeting.
Yep.
Vote on them? Okay, sounds good. All right, superintendent evaluation committee, I assume you guys haven't met since the last meeting. Let's see, in the capital planning committee. Same thing, yep, okay, and that meeting's also gonna be on the 11th. Yes, Matt and Jim, just make sure you guys can both make it, with my absence there. All right. And with that, I don't think there's any other matters that we didn't anticipate within 48 hours of the
I
posting.
want to do a brief mention if I could.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
We attended the MASC conference, the joint conference, and there were a number of sessions that were informative. It was very good, actually. There was I spent a lot of time in the finance area a lot, which was a little bit taxing. There's the legal area, which was also, Maureen knew enough to stay away from those, but
No, I did in the last 3 years. I said, you can go, but I did in the last 3 years. I'm gonna try this one this time.
But it was very good. Maureen was part of one of the panels on the situations with coming to agreement with towns on budgets, which is very good. And I also, oh yeah, one very important keynote was this is November 5th, I think, or 5th or 6th. So you can imagine there was a lot of motion in the conference at that point. So the keynote speaker was actually extremely eloquent and very on point at trying to understand how you can bring more cooperation within conversations. And he focused it around the idea of giving everyone dignity in the conversation. And he actually, the cool thing about it was he came up with a card that he handed out to everybody that had different examples of the framing that you could have a question or a statement in, and what level of dignity you were assigning to the person you were talking to, whether it was, essentially from poisonous to helpful and trying to move the conversation forward. So I thought that was excellent. That was probably the highlight of the conference.
I'll add it was Tim Shriver, so he used
Yeah.
to be in charge of Special Olympics. So he spoke, and it's called the Dignity Index. And I mean, I've been carrying them around. You told me I had a whole bunch of them in my bag. I would hand them out, and I just took them out of my bag. But it was really interesting to have it break down when people have these divisive conversations and how, like, the othering of other people sometimes in the statements we say, and how to actually treat anyone with dignity at this high level to have better conversations.
So it was
good.
just a very, very good, it was like an hour and a half
Yeah.
that he spent talking. He did a really good job. And then the last one that I attended was with the superintendent of Hopedale. I forgot her name. Karen. Okay, so, and we were both sitting there looking at a session that really turned into a debate, because you essentially had a group of consultants saying that we should all put policies into our school districts broadly across the state that advocated for
more divergence for specially gifted students. And we had a big debate about that, whether that was relevant. We just got through taking the advanced learner program, since it involved almost 60% of our middle school. So that's not really advanced anymore, it's mainstream. So I had a big debate with those guys around it. And it's interesting, the thing that was interesting about it was that there are independent consultants in here really trying to influence the way that different school districts operate, even in Massachusetts. So something to keep a careful eye on, because it's a very intelligent and very tenacious approach, to put it that way.
Cool. Thank you, Sean.
No problem.
Appreciate that. All right, so future agenda items, we've got some more student data analysis coming forward, get into the budget forecasts and the budget presentations. With that, we can take a motion to adjourn. Adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? And we are adjourned.